Tonight, calls for tougher sanctions against football fan disorder. The First Minister condemns trouble involving Celtic supporters in Glasgow city centre and says he'll look at new laws to address pitch invasions after these scenes. Also on tonight's programme.
This boy punched me several times in my face, my shoulder, my hands, and I had to have time off work due to that. The things we're seeing now, it makes you question, do you want to be in the job?
As new figures show a rise in attacks on school staff, unions warn the true scale of violence in the classroom isn't clear. Researchers begin clinical trials in an attempt to treat the so-called broken heart syndrome.
And coming up in the sport, after Martin O'Neill lifts his fourth league title as Celtic manager, will the 74-year-old still be in the dugout at the start of next season?
I'm Laura Goodwin, this is Reporting Scotland. It should have been a weekend of celebration and commiseration following the Celtic Hearts showdown. Instead, the focus is condemnation of the behaviour of some fans. Celtic have apologised following a pitch invasion, which meant the Edinburgh side had to leave swiftly. 2 police officers were also hurt and 14 people arrested after thousands of Celtic fans gathered in Glasgow city centre. It's once again raised the question, does Scottish football need tougher rules to tackle problematic fan behaviour? Here's our sports news correspondent, Chris McLaughlin.
The scenes that some feared and most felt inevitable. After being told to stay away by the police and their club, thousands of Celtic fans once again gathered in the Trongate area of Glasgow, and trouble followed. Before the match, Glasgow City Council criticised Celtic for not making provisions for a title party. Today, calls for football to do better.
There's just no way that's acceptable, so this can't happen again. We've got to have very deep engagement with the football authorities, with the clubs, and the clubs have got to take responsibility for this to make sure that the proper arrangements are in place to ensure that the police are not exposed.
Those who live in the area say they have had enough.
The Glasgow City Council has had several years to get around this particular problem. It's made very little effort to do so. The Celtic Football Club bears a lot of the responsibility. They have not responded. We are the Residents Association for this particular part of Glasgow. We have contacted Celtic Football Club on many occasions going down through the years. We have not received a single reply.
This was earlier, a dramatic end to the most dramatic of seasons. But once again, fans ran onto the pitch. Most who remained in the stand booed in response. Hearts made their way off the pitch and straight to the bus, they say, for their own safety. And police are now assessing reports that players and staff were assaulted. Asked today if the scenes at the end were out of control, the Celtic manager said this.
I totally disagree with that there. I don't know about the confrontations in terms of the Hearts players, and there's a lot of hyperbole about that. Let us find out the real picture. Let me have a look at the picture. Let me have a look as if I was judge and jury of these particular things. But let me see the scenes at the end of the day, and then I'll come back to you.
It's becoming a growing problem. These the scenes in March after Celtic beat Rangers in the Scottish Cup at Ibrox. The SPFL want legislation to be changed to make pitch invasions illegal.
I think a change in the law might bring it to the forefront of people's minds, but what is more so what the end result is. If there's a change in the law, we have to make sure that there's consequences, and that's what counts. And if there's no consequences at the end of it, then nothing's going to change.
Another clean-up and more questions about a day that should have been about football, but once again was about so much more.
Well, Chris is with us now. Chris, we have been here before. Will anything change this time?
Yeah, I think we were here last year, the year before that, I think even the year before that. So it's right that we ask that question. Is anything actually going to change? Let's take the pitch invasion stuff first. The SPFL want Holyrood to step in and make that a criminal offence. I think there's a good chance that is coming down the line. The SPFL are also keen, I think, to introduce more sanctions. We have seen sanctions, tough sanctions for things like pyro in recent months, and I expect the same with regards to pitch invasions. Ultimately, of course, it's about the fans. The Trongate stuff is trickier because it's about who takes responsibility. Now, the council, the police and Celtic have been in discussions for months about trying to find a solution to this. They couldn't find a solution. So who is actually ultimately responsible for this? Now, the residents are sick of it, the police are sick of it, but despite really tough talking again, just like last year, I don't see any obvious or easy solution to this.
OK, Chris, thank you very much indeed. Getting hurt is becoming the norm. That's what one teacher who had her cheek and her wrist broken by a pupil told our education correspondent Lucy Adams. According to an investigation by our team, there were 35,000 assaults on staff recorded in Scotland in the last school year. Even more worrying, the number of assaults by pupils has increased by more than 50% in just 2 years.
Raha is a teaching assistant at a primary school. Her name and voice have been changed to protect her identity. She was hospitalised recently with a fractured wrist and cheekbone after a child flung her onto a concrete floor.
He pulled me very hard and I fractured my face, wrist, all my body is painful. I'm traumatized. For up to 2-3 months, I wasn't able to speak and I couldn't eat properly.
Raha says behaviour in the classroom has got worse.
They say this is part of the job, so they can't do anything. We should get training, we should get meeting times, and they should ask us our problems.
Our Freedom of Information request revealed there were more than 35,000 physical assaults on staff in Scotland's schools last year. That figure jumped 55% over 2 years.
It's become the norm within schools. Violence in schools is now the norm. For our members, that's what they're facing day in, daily, from 9 o'clock to the start till 3 o'clock when they leave. They've been spat on, over 78% in some cases. A staff member will be spat on, punched, kicked.
Stephanie has worked as a teaching assistant for years. Again, her name has been changed to protect her identity. She says the lack of consequences for pupils is a growing problem.
There's just not a day that goes by that there's not an incident. You do get brought down when you're seeing the level of violence. We get the police out at the school most days.
She worries about the impact on staff and other pupils.
This boy punched me several times in my face, my shoulder, my hands, and I had to have time off work due to that. It did knock my confidence. It stopped me going out with family and friends. I was frightened. I do love my job, but the things we're seeing now, it makes you question, do you want to be in the job?
Unions and staff say there needs to be improved training, better risk assessments, resourcing and proper recording.
I think that's still going to be an understatement. So despite the fact that those figures you've shown us are pretty shocking, we would be almost 100% sure that that's still not the full picture. And how can you properly address things unless you've got the full picture? We need to be looking, as well as improving the recording systems to get that true picture, looking at what needs done to make these teachers safe in their workplace.
COSLA says councils will always support any staff who experience abuse, but they said they have no reason to believe there is under-reporting. The Scottish Government published a behaviour action plan in schools 2 years ago and said good progress is being made. It said it's also looking to improve recording and monitoring of assaults in schools. Lucy Adams, reporting Scotland.
A woman has pleaded guilty to murdering her friend and neighbour in Rutherglen in South Lanarkshire in December 2023. Claire Kilduff initially lied in a 999 call, saying she had found Anne Call in a pool of blood in her flat days before Christmas. Today she admitted stabbing and hitting the 61-year-old grandmother with a hammer. Suzanne Allen reports from the High Court in Glasgow.
Anne Call's body was discovered here at her flat at Newfield Place in Rutherglen, just a few days before Christmas. She was found in her bedroom in a pool of blood, having been hit on the head with a hammer and struck with a knife. There were 21 lacerations to her head and neck. Today at the High Court in Glasgow, 40-year-old Claire Kilduff pled guilty to murdering her friend and neighbour Anne Cole. The court heard how the two had watched TV together. Then, around 7:40 in the evening, a payment had been scheduled to Kilduff's account from Anne Cole for £320. After midnight, 2 999 calls were made by Kilduff. She lied, telling call handlers she'd come up to find her neighbour in a pool of blood, not breathing. According to lawyers, the murder took place sometime between 7:30 and 10 to 1 the next morning. Kilduff had been due to stand trial before finally admitting her guilt today. The court heard that Anne Cole was well known and well liked in the local area. She was regularly seen out with her dog. The two women were friends and walked their dogs together near where they stayed in Rutherglen, including shortly before the murder. Anne Cole's friends and family cried as the distressing details of her death were read out in court. The judge, Lord Arthurson, told Kilduff, "You have pleaded guilty to the gravest offence in our law." The court heard Anne Cole was a much-loved parent, grandparent and friend who is greatly missed, particularly by her children. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
Some of the day's other stories now. A company has been fined £287,000 after an offshore worker fell to his death through a hole on a North Sea rig. 50-year-old Jason Thomas from Wales was reported missing from the Valaris 121 about 100 miles southeast of Aberdeen in 2023. The jack-up rig had been undertowed to Dundee. The grating on the deck outside a door was found to have been dislodged. At Aberdeen Sheriff Court, drilling contractor Ensco admitted breaching health and safety at work guidelines. A 12-year-old boy is in a serious condition in hospital after a car hit several pedestrians in Alloa yesterday afternoon. The boy was airlifted to Glasgow. Two women aged 43 and 81 and an 8-year-old boy were also taken to hospital but later released. The 70-year-old driver was also checked over in hospital. Police are asking anyone who saw what happened to get in touch. Police say 2 officers were assaulted and a police car vandalised amid significant and unacceptable antisocial behaviour from a large group of youths in Aberdeen last night. As officers were arresting a 16-year-old male in connection with an illegal electric bike in the Northfield area, they were attacked by a large group of people who gathered. Police Scotland say officers suffered minor injuries and inquiries are ongoing. He was known as a powerhouse on the pitch, but perhaps showed even greater strength off it. Tributes have poured in for Scott Hastings, who died yesterday at the age of 61 whilst undergoing cancer treatment. Regarded as one of our best rugby union players, he was part of the last Scotland side to win a Grand Slam. In later years, he dedicated much of his time to charity work, including mental health causes, following his wife's death in 2024. Cameron Buttle has this report.
This was the game that made rugby legends. Scotland facing England for the Grand Slam in 1990. And this is the moment Scott Hastings is said to have saved the match.
That was a try-saving tackle if ever there was one.
One of the many moments talked about in a special BBC Sport podcast recorded today.
The number of times he made significant tackles, or he was in a place to support a player for an offload and to link a pass, showed that rugby intelligence of how we could read a game.
Grand Slam teammates still talk of the Scott Hastings that took to the field that day.
Scott was absolutely hyped that day. You could see it in his eyes. He was just wired, ready to go, and I think he was so up for it.
Hastings has been an inspiration, not just as a player, but also for the man he was off the pitch.
It was just that zest for life, that energy, that enthusiasm. It was infectious. You couldn't fail but smile and have a good time with whatever you were doing if Scott was in your company.
This is Scott's rise, really, from the school team, age group, the Scottish schools.
It was with Edinburgh side Watsonians that Hastings' career began as a schoolboy, a club he continued to be part of throughout his life.
It mattered to us that we mattered to him. That he, his stellar career, his Lions appearances. He was also a very humble guy.
Hastings and his late wife Jenny led aerobics classes during COVID to help people struggling with lockdown, a small part of his work with mental health charities.
They raised awareness of mental health, they helped reduce stigma, they got people actively involved in our 100 Streets Challenge, they raised funds for us, they were just true ambassadors for mental health.
Tonight, as tributes continue to come in from all over the world, a book of condolence has been opened where it all began, at his old club in Edinburgh that was so close to his heart. Cameron Buttle, reporting Scotland.
Well, Amy is here with Reporting Scotland News at 7 after us, and you're going to be speaking to those who knew and loved Scott Hastings too.
Yeah, such a huge loss, isn't it, Laura? And we hear much more from his former teammate Craig Chalmers, somebody that knew him really well, just talking about Scott's life and legacy. So we'll have much more on that. And of course, we're looking back at the Celtic Premiership title winning weekend, both what happened on and off the pitch.
Great. Amy, thank you very much indeed. Tonight's main news again. The First Minister has condemned trouble involving Celtic supporters in Glasgow city centre. Well, he says he'll also look at new laws to address pitch invasions.
And still to come in the sport, we look back on an enthralling Premiership campaign.
The first ever clinical trial to treat the condition known as broken heart syndrome has begun. Researchers from Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh are among those conducting the 7-year study. Often mistaken for a heart attack, the syndrome is usually triggered by sudden emotional distress. Rachel Bell has been finding out more.
Oh, Mum. Well, I could tell you an awful lot about her, but she was just a lovely character. A character being the word.
Last November, Brenda lost her mum. The grief took its toll, emotionally and physically.
But she passed away really peacefully. However, within a few minutes of her passing away, really, I developed chest pain.
Brenda would later be diagnosed with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, also known as broken heart syndrome.
It was disbelief. That's really how I would describe it. And I was worried about my dad, I was worried about my sister, and of course the arrangements for my mum's funeral was going on.
Brenda is one of thousands of people to be diagnosed with the condition in the UK every year. There's currently no proven therapy, and that's what researchers here are trying to change.
Leading the 7-year trial into treatment for the condition is Dana Dawson.
There are absolutely no guidelines about what to do with these people with Takotsubo syndrome, particularly in the longer term. There is not even a consensus among experts on how to treat this condition. So after decades of research, we have now started the first ever clinical trial to look into how to mend the broken heart.
The research will involve almost 1,000 patients from across 40 different hospitals. It will assess if medicines that relax blood vessels could be an effective course of treatment. Brenda, who is taking part in the trial, is recovering well, but the pain of losing her mum is still there.
Life would never be the same without your mother. That goes without saying. And of course, coupled with Takotsubo as well. So what comes from where, you don't know.
What would your mum make of you doing this today?
Oh, she would be having such a laugh. She would be saying, ha, look at her, Brenda, she would say.
Rachel Bell, reporting Scotland.
Right, let's get tonight's sport with Lewis. And as we've been hearing throughout the programme, still much discussion about the events both on and off the pitch.
I don't know if you heard, there was a pretty big game at the weekend.
I heard about it,
riding on it, yeah. That's exactly where we start tonight. Thanks very much, Laura. Hello there. Yes, we're beginning with that game. And former Celtic captain Paul Lambert has backed Martin O'Neill to remain in the Celtic dugout next season and believes age is just a number in management. The Northern Irishman led Celtic to their 56th league title, his 4th as their manager, after his side came from a goal down on Saturday to defeat Hearts 3-1 at Celtic Park. O'Neill and his players have a chance to make it a double on Saturday when they face Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup final.
I thought Celtic would win the league anyway, even from the off, start of the season. OK, they've had an incredible time turmoil-wise where there's been protests, there's been new manager coming in, then he leaves, Brendan leaves, Wilfred Nancy comes in, then Martin O'Neill comes in. It's just been an absolute turbulent season for them, but I don't think they'll let it happen again. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think domestically the best team always wins the league. I think Hearts have got themselves to blame as well. I don't think you should look at any incident to say the penalty or lack of penalties or this penalty. It evens itself out throughout the season. I just think Hearts, they finished second, and second in football, I'm afraid, is no good enough.
Martin O'Neill has come into Celtic and brought stability when they needed it most. Just a word on your former manager and the job he's done, Paul.
He was the only manager I thought could have done it. I really do, because he knows the club, he knows how it works, he knows the expectance level of the fans. But I'm pretty sure deep down there'd be moments he thought Celtic aren't going to do it. But I think the club as a whole has to stabilise and compete in Europe and domestically be a lot better than what they were this year.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Paul. Would you want Martin O'Neill to stick around for another season?
Listen, I know what he's like that way as a manager, and I know, and I keep hearing this age thing. Age is nothing really in being a managerial terms. You've seen the amount of managers that go in at a later age of their careers and still galvanise clubs. And the football's not changed that much. So he knows how to manage people, Lewis. That's the great thing about him. He knows how to do it. I met him a couple of times up in Glasgow when I came back up. I was at the Motherwell game at Parkhead a few months ago there, and I saw him after the game and had a little chat with him then. So, but it's whether he wants to do it or I really don't know what he wants to do. But what I do know is whoever takes the Celtic job, it's not a development club. It's not a club where you can develop people. You have to win, and that's the nature of Celtic. You have to win football matches. If you don't win, I'm sure the manager or any manager finds it tough. So he knows how to win football matches, Martin O'Neill, and what he done for Celtic this year has been incredible.
Now, the Hearts boss, Derek McInnes, says he expects the club to challenge for trophies on a regular basis after the final day heartache of missing out on their first Scottish title for 66 years. Despite Lon Shanklin's first half goal, it all ended in bitter disappointment. The Hearts squad left Celtic Park immediately after the game, and Derek McInnes hasn't conducted any media interviews since, but he did speak to the Scottish Football Writers Association after collecting their Manager of the Year award last night, and we can show you a clip from that event.
In the cold light of day, when we look back, there's been so much positivity from where we were at the beginning of the season. You always start a season with hope and expectation, and I think we've exceeded all of that this season. So the intention now is to dust ourselves down and try and enjoy our break, but be ready for the challenges ahead. I fully believe that those challenges are going to be met. I think this season's gave us so much encouragement for us to reach 80 points, be involved in the Champions League qualifiers coming up in July, a club record, as I say, and so many positives from the campaign. We'll look back and enjoy it, but we'll also have that kind of grievance at times and that disappointment to try and spur us on to something greater.
Well, what a Premiership season it was, as exciting as it was unpredictable, with plenty of talking points along the way. Here's a quick recap of the most thrilling top flight campaign we've seen for many, many years. A remarkable season, really. And Chris, I don't know what the weather's looking like tomorrow, but what I do know is happening tomorrow, Laura, is Steve Clarke names his Scotland squad for the World Cup, so a huge day there.
Yep, exciting. Thank you very much, Lewis.
Cheers.
Right, how is the weather looking? Christopher, very nice in
Lovely
Aberdeen
picture
today.
here from one of our weather watchers in the northeast, where we saw the best of the sunshine today. For many, it was cloudy with showers, and that is a theme for the coming days, but also temperatures are on the rise.
Good,
Laura.
I like those clouds.
Thank you very much indeed. A very good evening too. Yes, for many of us today, it wasn't sunshine, but rather cloudy fare with fairly frequent showers, all courtesy of low pressure, which is going to be a feature of our weather this week, bringing showers or longer spells of rain. But it's only half the story, because we're also dragging in some much warmer air from the south. So through the course of this week, the temperatures will rise. Now, this evening, we've got the daytime showers fading away. It's then dry and cloudy for a time, but you can see around about midnight and through the early hours, the weather front bringing some more persistent wet weather into the southwest and moving northwards, breezy around the southwest coast, but temperatures around 6 to 8 Celsius as the overnight low. It means tomorrow gets off to a pretty wet start. Some mist and murk around the hills and the coasts. And then into the afternoon, we sort of replace that rain with showers, and sunshine will be in short supply. There'll be a lot of cloud around, a few brighter glimpses here and there. This is a snapshot mid-afternoon tomorrow. You can see a fair number of showers, some of them heavy, perhaps some hail and thunder in the mix, but temperatures mid-teens. So again, we'll see that warming trend. Perhaps a little bit of a breeze developing around the northwest coast, but more so in the far north and the Northern Isles. Tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, those showers remaining with us. Again, 1 or 2 on the heavy side. And low pressure is sticking with us midweek. This is Wednesday and Thursday. We've got showers on Wednesday. One low departs, another one arrives, bringing some frontal rain. So this is midweek Wednesday. Perhaps fewer showers compared with tomorrow. A bit more in the way of sunshine through the central lowlands, and temperatures continue to tick up. And on Thursday, frontal rain lifting northwards, drier through the afternoon. Again, warmer, 18 degrees now. And we continue that trend on Friday. We've got high pressure across the near continent, dragging in some warm air from the south. Notice we've still got a weather front nearby with some cloud and some showers, but temperatures now 20 or 21 degrees with sunshine developing from the south. That's the forecast for now.
We'll not know what to do with ourselves. 20 degrees. Thank you very much, Christopher. Now, tonight's main news again. The First Minister has condemned trouble involving Celtic supporters in Glasgow city centre. He also says he'll look at new laws to address pitch invasions. And just before we go, tune into Politics Scotland tomorrow from 1:55 p.m. for live coverage of MSPs choosing the First Minister following the Holyrood election. That's on the BBC Scotland channel and on iPlayer. Amy will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. Until then, from everyone on the team, whatever you're doing, do enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.